I was born in 1952 in a Catholic family as a girl to a mother who was 41 years old and made it very clear that having another child at this point was a huge burden, something she reminded me of frequently in the ensuing years. So my whole life, I've really had a yearning for a world where everybody is welcome just by virtue of being human. And I've been looking for that in my work all my life. I happened to wander into the Episcopal Church at age 29, not thinking I was going to like it very much. It seemed like a pretty starchy denomination. And I went to the Church of the Redeemer in Hyde Park, where everybody was wearing blue blazers. But when I walked through the door, what I saw was a woman celebrating communion. And it shattered me because she was completely at home in her female body and in her priesthood. And I thought, maybe this is the group of people with whom I can become who I'm wanting to be and do the work I want to do. I became a journalist for the diocese and spent 30 years reporting on social justice, coaching people. I ran a diocesan nonprofit. I was like the expert on community ministry. So I thought I knew some stuff. And along the way, I encountered Lincoln Heights because of the work of 3 Episcopal parishes in the Mill Creek Valley. And I thought of Lincoln Heights as a blighted, impoverished Black community. Well, that perception got changed pretty radically this spring when the pandemic hit, because the major food pantry that served the Mill Creek Valley had to shut down to protect the elderly volunteers from the pandemic. This was the pantry started by my parish a generation ago. And those of us who were working on outreach in the Mill Creek Valley parishes were invited to a series of conference calls every Saturday morning that service providers in Lincoln Heights were putting on. And this is the first time I had taken the time to listen to anybody beyond St. Simon's in Lincoln Heights. And what we witnessed in those calls just blew me away, because that community is teeming with civic groups and sororities and churches and fraternities that stepped up, and they mounted this unbelievable food security initiative that fed hundreds of families for over 2 months until people could start going back to work. The contribution of our little Episcopal churches in Glendale was just a puny part of this effort. So that blew me away. And in the process, I got on the email list of Carlton Collins, who is a community organizer in Lincoln Heights. And he sent out an email about the fact that he's trying to get the police firing range of the Cincinnati police moved away from Evendale because the sound of gunfire shatters the peace of Lincoln Heights all day, every day. Children can't go to the playground without hearing police loudspeakers and gunfire. I didn't know there was a police firing range. I hadn't noticed the sound of gunfire on my infrequent visits to Lincoln Heights. And I thought, whoa, this is pretty daring. How is Carlton ever going to do that? So I reported about it to our churches. I was very honored that Carlton would let us know about this. And then I didn't follow up. But in October, WVXU had a news broadcast that Cincinnati City Council was holding a special hearing to address this issue of the Cincinnati police firing range. Carlton had opened my ears and I was listening. I thought, I'd better go hear that hearing. And what I saw, I think, is the closest thing I've seen ever yet in the United States to truth and reconciliation. Every stakeholder with power who could do something about this situation was at that meeting and was in listening mode. The county commissioners unanimously voted to recommend that Cincinnati move the firing range. The Cincinnati police testified that they were in favor of it. They could see why it was a problem having it there. And then the community spoke. Durance Daniels, who is a member of City Council in Lincoln Heights, talked about adverse childhood experiences, the trauma of listening to gunfire. A daycare provider talked about how is she going to have nap time with the constant thunder of gunfire outside the window. One mother talked about her toddler going outside on the front porch and being terrified by this sound. Then we heard that bullets are coated with lead, and when you fire off a bullet, off comes lead dust. And this has been going on for 80 years, and nobody has even taken a soil sample. And then an audiologist from the University of Cincinnati, middle-aged white man who looks like your typical science teacher, talked about coming out to Lincoln Heights at Durance's invitation and taking sound samplings. And then he began to weep. He said, this sound is beyond the level associated with cardiovascular disease. And if only we could restore these children to silence, he said. Well, we learned from members of City Council that the Ohio senators are trying to find federal resources to move the firing range, and the village of Evendale wants to buy the land back, and I think there's going to be a solution. So my advice to myself and to all the other white people who want to show up is open your ears and notice the power, the love, and believe in that potential. What I heard in that city council chamber was deep, profound love of those Lincoln Heights parents for their children. And what I saw is what the power of love can do if we will listen. Because these children of theirs in Lincoln Heights are not throwaway children. They are beloved children. They're the kind of child I wanted to be when I was a little child in my home. This is the kind of future that Lincoln Heights is envisioning for their children, a future of health. And they're giving us the privilege of seeing how they're bringing it about, and we need to listen.